It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Again, for tuning in. We got a few topics that I want to address today. First things first, the Pittsburgh Steelers dealing with Ben Roethlisberger. Should the Pittsburgh Steelers give Big Ben one last hurrah to maybe shoot their shot for a championship? I mean, we know what Ben Roethlisberger has accomplished since he's been in the league and since he's been a Pittsburgh Steeler, two-time Super Bowl champion. I mean, the Steelers have been in contention to win a title almost every year he's been under center. We understand all that. But at some point, it's time to move on. And I feel like right now is a time where the Steelers need to move on from Ben Roethlisberger because he's done. He's got nothing left. I think this year proved it. A lot of people tried to say he was in the MVP conversation earlier this year, this and that the Steelers were going to beat the Chiefs in the playoffs, that they really were a Super Bowl caliber team. They should be the favorites. I mean, that was ridiculous. They started 11-0 because they had such a cupcake schedule. And I know a lot of people like to refer to Bill Parcells' famous quote, "Once upon a time, he says you are what your record shows." Sure, that's literally the definition of it, and that is a fact, but there's no context behind it. Who you play matters, is going to dictate your record, and that's all going to have an effect on it. So the Steelers' 11-0 start had to deal with them having a cupcake schedule. Because when you look at that schedule, they played some awful teams that they barely won and snuck out wins. Sure, a win's a win, but at the end of the day, you need some context, and that's why we saw them fold towards the end of the season, and especially in that wild card game, getting the brakes beat off them in the first half against the Cleveland Browns, who haven't been in the playoffs since probably 1400 BC during the bubonic plague pandemic. I've been referring to Ben Roethlisberger, the way he's looked in the pocket, as the Statue of Liberty. He literally is as mobile as the Tin Man when he's in the pocket. The dude cannot move whatsoever. Like, he drops back and he's stuck and he can't move. When teams get pressure on him, there's nowhere for him to go. He's not the guy who could break tackles or avoid sacks like he used to. Those days are over. After the elbow surgery, he doesn't have the arm he used to. We've seen time and time again with this Steelers team that when they put the ball in Roethlisberger's hands, when they asked him to do more, that's where he made more mistakes, and that's where the Pittsburgh Steelers really went wrong. And that's another reason why that they really fell completely off the face of the earth, and that's why they had that 11-0 start, and then having a miserable end of the season and a disappointing playoff run. Roethlisberger's just not that guy anymore. And sure, I think the Steelers not only should move on from Big Ben, I think they should blow the whole thing up. They need to blow this whole thing up. Sure, their defense was one of the best, if not the best defense in the league in the beginning of the season, but they had many problems in the secondary closer to the end of the regular season. They had many injuries in the linebacking core. There was too many problems. And let's not forget their running game went to the toilet bowl. I mean, they had games where they were rushing for 20 yards a game as a team. That's what they were doing. That's simply not going to get it done. Not only do I think the Steelers should move on from Big Ben, I think they just should move on from everything. They need to blow this whole thing up, start from scratch. And there is still talent on that roster where if you blow it up now, the rebuild process will be much faster. You still have a great coach in Mike Tomlin, who I believe is one of the best coaches in the game. But if the Steelers try to give this a one last hurrah or try to stay in the win now mentality, which I understand Pittsburgh Steelers fans are going to want to have that win now mentality because they do have 6 Super Bowl titles, which is tied for most in NFL history with the Terry Bradshaws of the world. And we know what the dominance that they've had in the Super Bowl era. But eventually it's just time to blow it up. And if they blow it up now, I think this rebuild process could be much quicker than people may think, and I think they could be right back in contention within a few years if they do it now. If they try to wait, if they try this win now mentality, I think it could set them up disaster for the entire 2020 decade because right now their championship window is closed. With Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, what they're doing, the Steelers are not contending with them. The rise of Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, what they're doing, they're not better than them. You could honestly say right now, Ben Roethlisberger may be the worst quarterback in the AFC North. I'm almost confident to say that. I don't think he's better than Lamar Jackson right now. I wouldn't really take him over Joe Burrow right now, especially entering his second year, and he's going to be healthy. And if there's some talent around him, I think Joe Burrow is going to be a star in this league. And then Baker Mayfield, is Roethlisberger better than him right now? The only thing Roethlisberger has on them is a past and he has experience on them. But in terms of right now, in terms of 2021, I can't definitively say Roethlisberger's better than any quarterback in that division. But I for sure can say that they are not winning a title anytime soon, and their days are over, and so is Roethlisberger's days. He had a great career. He will be a Hall of Famer, maybe a first ballot Hall of Famer, but right now, it's time to hang up the spikes. Ben Roethlisberger needs to retire. He needs to go. The Steelers need to move on, and the Pittsburgh Steelers need to blow the whole thing up and start the rebuild process, because there's plenty of talent to trade for draft picks, for young assets, and the Steelers could be right back in contention way faster than people may believe, but they got to do it now. There's no time to wait. With that being said, I want to switch gears to the NBA real quick, and I want to talk about the NBA All-Star Draft. So it really goes to see LeBron versus KD, another matchup. I've always lived by the saying, there's never been a day in Kevin Durant's life he was better at the sport of basketball than LeBron James. Not only is that statement true in terms of basketball, you could say the same thing as a GM. LeBron has been doing this since 2018, drafting an all-star team. And every single year, in terms of just raw talent on paper of who he's drafting, they have been significantly better than the other team. And it's happening again this year. LeBron's starting five. Himself, Steph Curry, Luka Doncic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Nikola Jokic. I don't know how you could line that up to have such a stacked lineup, because if you take those five guys, that could be the greatest starting five ever in any All-Star game, any era put together, five guys. I mean, what that lineup has, and especially the balance, it's not just about the five best players in the league, because you can't say this is the five best players in the league, but the balance and how these guys would work together and play together is what makes this lineup so great. We know what LeBron James does. He's your point guard. He's your duo, your best player. We know what kind of playmaker he is. He's the best passer in basketball still, and to me, he's still the best point guard. Yes, point guard. Best point guard in basketball. Steph Curry, the greatest shooter we've ever seen. And I've always been the one to say, if LeBron and Steph ever played together, that would be the greatest duo in NBA history. What kind of, because if you look at it, let's look at some context and look at some logic. What kind of players does LeBron play with really well? What kind of players do you want to surround LeBron with? Shooters. What does Steph Curry do better than anybody? Shoot the basketball. What's another quality that Steph has? He doesn't need the ball in his hands. He loves to come off screens. He's running around in circles with like a chicken without a head in terms of running in the half court, coming off screens, catch and shoot. And he's a guy who could create his own shot. And he could play make a little bit. What that duo could do, just them two, give me LeBron and Steph, and give me a bunch of G League players. I would take that team to win the championship almost every single year, just by having those two. As long as they're healthy, there's no team that could stop that duo. That would be a significant amount of firepower. And that's just those two. Nikola Jokic, who is in the MVP conversation, who's close to averaging a triple-double this year, even though the Nuggets only have the 7 seed. He's giving you about 27, 11, and 8.5 as a center. One of the best, probably the best passing centers that I could remember, maybe ever, in terms of what Jokic is doing. And he could stretch it out and shoot the three ball. We know what Giannis is, back-to-back MVP, reigning Defensive Player of the Year. What he could do, a locomotive going downhill, he's virtually unguardable in terms of going downhill. And then you have the young star, who I believe will be the face of the league, Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic, it's like a less athletic, better shooting version of a LeBron James. Unbelievable playmaker, basketball IQ through the roof, could score with the best of them, shoots the lights out, could finish, gets the free throw line, has mastered a step back three. I mean, what that starting five has is simply just pure greatness. It's pure greatness, and I'm so excited for this All-Star game. And then KD's team, I understand that this team is still what is not up to their capability because KD is not playing. And from my estimation, I'm not a believer that KD should be, as I understand that, here's the thing. When we're drafting the captains for the All-Star game, or the two players in each respective conference who have the most All-Star votes. I understand that KD is the best player in the Eastern Conference. I understand he got the most votes. But if he's the captain, because he had the most votes and he's not playing, it should be the next guy up. Because just by KD drafting a team that he's not in the lineup, it already makes that team worse right then and there. I mean, look at it. If you look at their starting lineup, it's Kyrie, Bradley Beal, Jason Tatum, Kawhi Leonard, Joel Embiid. You replace Tatum with KD, then that's a legit matchup, even though it doesn't compare to Team LeBron. But at least it's more a compatible starting five to LeBron's, where you could compete and you could say, all right, you got some horses. I mean, Kyrie Irving, in my estimation, should be an MVP candidate. Bradley Beal's leading the league in scoring. Kawhi Leonard, 2019 Finals MVP. We know what he brings to the table. One of the greatest perimeter defenders in the history of the game. And then Joel Embiid, who, in my opinion, in most people's opinion, and I believe in the MVP key of MVP voting ladder, is the favorite to win MVP as of right now. So with that being said, I'm just a believer that if KD is not playing, he should not be awarded captain to draft a team, because it unbalances significant. It's because it's like, in reality, because it's significantly making your team worse. Because in reality, the first pick between these two teams are your captains. Your captains. LeBron is the first pick for Team LeBron because that's his team. And then KD would be himself. KD would be his own first pick. So if that being said, it's LeBron versus KD right then and there. Then you draft the team. But it's just every single year, no matter when LeBron goes up against Steph, when LeBron goes against KD, when LeBron goes up against Giannis in terms of drafting a team, his team is always more significantly better than the team he's going against in terms of drafting. So with that being said, as great as LeBron is, going to be regarded as a top 2 player in the history of basketball, it may look like he's got a future as a GM in this league. The way he knows how to draft teams, the way how high his basketball IQ is, why not? I think that's something that LeBron should be open to once he retires. Maybe he's a GM of Bronny's team one day. We never know. But I mean, the way he could draft the team every single year. Every year we look at these starting fives for Team LeBron versus whether it's Team Steph, Giannis, or KD. LeBron's team is always significantly better. Every single time. And it's not even close. I still don't know how he put together that starting five compared to KD's. And I understand the biggest difference is KD is not playing. But I just believe moving forward, KD, if you're rewarded to be the captain of an all-star team and you are not playing in the all-star game, you should not be captain, because it defeats the purpose of balancing out the 2 all-star teams, and it takes away the fun. It takes away the fun, in my opinion. I understand the logic of it, because it's like when Anthony Davis is an all-star this year, but we know he's hurt with that calf injury. You can't draft him as a reserve. KD's basically drafting himself, but he's not playing and he won't be available. I don't agree with that, and right then and there, it makes that team just significantly worse. But I got one more topic today before I wrap up today's show, and that will be my top 5 MVP candidates. And this may be a little different than someone else's opinion in terms of top 5 MVP candidates, but a lot of people just love to use the storylines, this and that, of who your MVP is. If you guys follow me on Instagram or YouTube, and you guys have been following me at the Falco Takeaway, I revealed my top 5 MVP candidates. But for the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, I want to reveal it on today's show. And let me know what you think, because this may be a little bit of more of an unpopular opinion, my top 5 MVP candidates. I know a lot of people want to throw James Harden in the mix. I know a lot of people want to throw Steph Curry in the mix. James Harden, it's hard for me to throw him in there because I understand how great he's playing. He's been in his bag since he's been in Brooklyn. But the way he quit on the Rockets, the way he forced his way out, how out of shape he came coming into there, it's kind of tough for me to put him up there. And honestly, I just think there's a player on his team playing much better than him, and that's Kyrie Irving. But before I get into that, Steph Curry, I understand Steph's averaging close to 30 points a game. But when you're a bottom seed in the Western Conference, which we still don't know if the Warriors will even make the playoffs, it's hard for me to put Steph in the MVP conversation. And it's nothing about how he's not playing that great or he should be playing better, this or that. It's just simply that his numbers are inflated because he has to do more. That's just the logic behind it. If you're asked to do more, your numbers are going to look better. You're going to take more shots. You're going to have the ball in your hands. You're going to be relied on to do more. Therefore, your numbers are going to be better and more inflated, which is what happened with Steph Curry. And it's nothing against what he's done. And people will always say that he should be on all NBA first team, over a Kyrie Irving or a Damian Lillard, and a lot of that is just the brand of who he is. He's a 2-time MVP, a 3-time NBA champion, and he's Steph Curry, the greatest shooter ever. So, and he's liked more. So with that being said, that's just already another way why he may get that nod, even though I believe that there is a point guard playing better than him. But now, let me reveal my top 5 MVP candidates. First things first, I'm going with Kyrie Irving at number 5. Kyrie Irving has been in his bag this year, and a lot of people may not like it. A lot of people may not agree with it. I understand he went missing in action. A lot of people may not like what he says. A lot of people may call him a drama queen. But what that dude does on the basketball court cannot be ignored. You cannot ignore what Kyrie Irving does. The way he could create his own shot and create space is something I have never seen in the history of basketball, at least since I've been watching this sport. Kyrie Irving is giving you over 27 a game on 40% shooting from three-point range, 52% from the field, and 90% from the free throw line. So Kyrie is giving you a 40, 50, 90 season on over 27 points a game. Oh, wait, that's not all. Kyrie is doing this. He takes tougher shots than anybody in the NBA. He takes tougher shots than anybody in the NBA. And he's still putting up those type of numbers with that type of efficiency. That's why Kyrie deserves to be in the MVP conversation. Is he the favorite? No. Is he going to win it? Of course not. But we need to understand what he's doing and how special that is. And a lot of people's narratives are trying to say, oh, he plays with KD and Kyrie. Well, first of all, KD's barely been there. The big three in Brooklyn have played about 7 games together, if I remember correctly. And sure, he's playing with James Harden. But that doesn't take away what Kyrie does with the basketball in his hands. It's gotten to a point where you could just give the ball to Kyrie Irving and say, get me a bucket. No problem. And he does it. The way he could stop on a dime and shoot the three-point ball from three-point range, and he's doing it on 40% shooting in traffic. We know that side step he's got, which is just unguardable. The way he could pull up and stop on a dime and shoot the mid-range. The acrobatic layups and finishing in traffic, whether it's 1, 2, or 3 defenders, I still don't know how he even gets those shots off, let alone finishing them. He's established a little post bank that I still don't understand how he creates space to do it. The way he could create space and create his own shot is something I've never seen before. And I could say with confidence and evidence, Kyrie Irving is the most unguardable player in the NBA. He's the most unguardable player in the NBA. There's just nobody who can guard him, whether it's one-on-one, whether you double him. The way that dude's handles are, and the way he could just pull up from anywhere is ridiculous. And let's not ignore Kyrie's playmaking has taken a significant step forward. Kyrie's always been a guy who's just been a good ISO scorer, looked at as a lot of drama, not a great leader, and can't really play make. I think this year his court vision and his passing skills has taken a significantly big step forward. And Kyrie's become a good passer. Is he a great passer? No. I think he's a good passer. And his court vision is better than I've ever seen before. And this is easily the best season of Kyrie's career. 100%. That's why I have at number 5. At number 4, I'm going to go with Damian Lillard. Dame time. I mean, Dame also has been in his bag. They had to deal with injuries with Jokic. They've had injuries with CJ McCollum. Dame Lillard is averaging close to 30 a game, and he's giving you about 7 assists a game. I mean, he has been sensational dealing with those type of injuries, and the Blazers still have a top 5 seed in the tough Western Conference. And from talent for talent, they don't have the talent to be even near the top 4 seeds in the West, competing with the Los Angeles Lakers, the Los Angeles Clippers, a Utah Jazz, even a Phoenix Suns to that extent. They don't have the talent to compete with them. And the fact that Dame has them that good and that high in the West, when people questioned if they would even make the playoffs this year, has been simply sensational. He's been phenomenal. I mean, he's another guy. The second he steps over half court, he's a threat. He is. He's a threat once he steps over half court. His range is unlimited. He knows how to carry a team. He's a fantastic leader. And I do have 2 point guards in the MVP conversation as of now. Do I think Kyrie and Dame could really win it? I don't. Because there's just 3 guys having better seasons than them. But in terms of what he's doing, we can't ignore that. But at number 3, I'll go with Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jokic's numbers have been sensational this year. The only reason I can't have him any higher than number 3 is the Nuggets are a 7 seed. And when you're a 7 seed, you are really limited to how much or how great you can be. And we know the narratives of the MVP conversation. You need to be a top 4 seed at the very worst to really win the MVP. Sure, Russell Westbrook was an exception in 2017 because he averaged a triple-double, the first one since Oscar Robinson. But if Jokic wants to actually win the award, which I think he has a legit shot to win it, the Nuggets have to climb up in the ladder. The Nuggets have to be a better team, especially a team that's been finishing top 2, top 3 seeds over the past few years. Nikola Jokic is giving you 27, 11, and 8.5. I mean, the fact that he could pass the ball like that as a 7-footer, and I believe he's shooting close to 40% from three-point range. I mean, right then and there speaks volume, how great of a season he's had. He's been a guy who's just simply been unguardable, and he's the best playmaker on that team. And he does it on the defensive side of the ball. So Nikola Jokic absolutely is an MVP candidate. I have him 3 right now. Could he climb up to number 1? Hell yeah. Hell yeah, he could be an MVP this year. But I think the biggest obstacle that he's going to face in terms of winning the award, Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets need to win more games. They need to win more games, and they need to be a top seed in that Western Conference. But at number 2, who is the favorite for most for the majority of this year, and then when his Robin went down and Anthony Davis and then Dennis Schroeder went down, I think that's where he lost the lead. But that is LeBron Raymond James. LeBron James I have at number 2 in terms of the MVP right now. He's giving you your usual numbers, about 26 points a game, 8-8. We know his numbers are so consistent every single year. We know LeBron gives you, and he's doing it once again. I always say with LeBron in terms of the MVP, he's a guy where you know how reliable he's going to be. You know the numbers he's going to put up. You know his team's going to finish in the top of the conference. But the thing where he always loses the argument, given that he's had 4 MVPs already, he's always in the conversation every single year, he deals with voter fatigue. If any other superstar has a breakout or career year, they will always get the nod over LeBron just to give it to somebody else. If someone else has a breakout year, they're always going to be looked at, because it's a surprise, it's something new. It's the same thing with girls in a relationship. When you're with a new girl, this or that, or you've been with a girl for a while and you find someone new that you really like, it's going to feel better. It's going to be more fun. It's more exciting. And that's the same thing with the MVP conversation. Giving it to LeBron every year would be boring. But once you see a new guy who's having a breakout year, like a Joel Embiid, who's having the best year of his career, and he's regarded as a superstar, someone that we never thought would really have an MVP season. Now he's having that year, so of course Embiid's going to get the nod over LeBron. Even if it's close at the end of the year and LeBron maybe deserves it more, Embiid will always get it just because it's the new guy. It's the same thing when Giannis won it in 2019. I was a believer James Harden should have won the award. James Harden was averaging 36 points per game. I mean, that's the most since Michael Jordan in 1987. Anytime you were in the same sentence with Michael Jordan, especially scoring the basketball, you did something right. And that's what James Harden was doing. And the biggest case for James Harden in 2019 is when the Rockets were below 500, about 20-ish games into the regular season. He had CP3 go down, the next best player on the team. You had Clint Capella go down, missed an extended period of time, the next best player on the team. And Eric Gordon, the next best player on that team. His 3 top teammates missed time. And James Harden in that stretch had a 32-game 30-point streak. He had, I believe, 15 40-point games, a 50, 15, and 15 game, a 60-point triple-double, and he willed and threw the Rockets team on his back to the number 4 seed and 53 wins in the Western Conference. If you want to talk about value, that is the definition of valuable. That's the definition of valuable, doing the most for your team. And why did James Harden not win in 2019? Because Giannis was the up-and-coming superstar. The Bucks had the number 1 seed. Harden won the award the year before in 2018. It's doing it to the new guy. A lot of people don't like James Harden's style of play. They hate the iso ball, that he just dribble, the step-back 3, the free throws. But what he did in that stretch is not appreciated enough. Because that's the definition of valuable, and that's the MVP. And if you want to look at this year right now, going back to what I was talking about in terms of what LeBron's doing, yeah, sure, LeBron's giving you his usual numbers. He's still arguably the most valuable player in the league. A big thing is he's still the most reliable player in the league. Last year where we had a 5-month layoff, deal with everything we did in the bubble, won Finals MVP, had a 72-day turnaround, and played every single game this season except the last game before the All-Star break, just shows his reliability speaks volume, which is extremely valuable. That just shows how valuable he is right then and there, just by his counting numbers and how reliable he is. I think he was the MVP of the league this season, but where he really lost the lead was when Anthony Davis went down and Dennis Schroeder went down, and they lost 4 straight games and had some awful losses against a team like the Wizards and they got the brakes beat off them by the Jazz. They got the brakes beat off them by the Nets. Right then and there is where LeBron lost the lead, because overall, sure, he didn't have enough help, as a lot of people like to claim it, but he was terrible. He was terrible. And there is where I think he lost the lead, because there's just simply a guy having a better season officially, and that is Joel Embiid. Even though LeBron can, I think, eclipse Embiid, he still has a chance to actually win the award. He's going to have to overcome the odds, which I said that the way LeBron's going to lock up his 5th MVP and tie Michael Jordan, his idol, with 5 MVPs, is LeBron is going to need to keep this Lakers team winning as much as they did before Anthony Davis went down. So if the Lakers were still doing that, his minutes would increase. He's still playing every game, and the Lakers are still winning without Anthony Davis, who, my estimation, is a top 5 player in this league. Still winning like that, that's valuable. And then his numbers would increase because he's asked to do more. His points are going to increase. His rebounds are going to increase. His assists are going to increase. We know the whole story. So if all his numbers are increasing, he's still playing just about every single game, and the Lakers are winning without the second best player in your team. That's valuable, and that's how LeBron would lock up that 5th MVP. But with the Lakers struggling without AD is why I think he lost the race. Lost the race as of now to Joel Embiid. Embiid, again, giving you close to 30 points a game, giving you over 10 rebounds a game. I mean, he's shooting 42% from three-point range as a center. He is one of the most unguardable players in this league. Sure, he's not a point guard with the flashy handles, this and that, but he's a beast inside. There's nobody who could go body for body with that guy. He's just a monster. He's established a little jab step mid-range. He has a pull-up mid-range. I already said how he shoots the 3-ball and how he could attack the paint and get to the free throw line, an efficient free throw shooter. And the Sixers have the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, which we know the narratives of the MVP is all about narratives, and they love to give it to the best team in the league, which the Sixers have the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. So with that being said, as long as he keeps up this pace, as long as he stays healthy, as long as the Sixers keep winning, and Embiid keeps putting up those numbers and they keep winning, Embiid is going to win his first career MVP, which for the league, I think it's very good to give it to somebody else. And it's a guy that a lot of people didn't expect to win. I mean, going into the season, people really thought the MVP candidates were going to be something like an Anthony Davis, who is clearly out of the picture, especially dealing with the injury, even though he was having one of the worst years I can remember him having. Luka Doncic was the favorite to win MVP. The Mavericks aren't even in the playoffs right now, even though he's still putting up great numbers. We thought Steph Curry could have if the Warriors won enough games, but they're simply not. I mean, LeBron, of course, we know he's going to be in the conversation, not that he's going to win it. We thought maybe Giannis could do the three-peat, the first one since Larry Bird. But I think it's exciting. It's good for the league that Embiid, a surprise candidate, is now the favorite to win MVP, and he probably will win the award. But that's going to wrap up today's show. Thanks again for everyone who tuned in to the Falco Takeaway. And if you haven't already, make sure you follow me on Instagram and YouTube at the Falco Takeaway if you'd like to check out more of my content. Talk to you soon. Stay safe. Have a great weekend, everybody.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.